We are set in 15 seconds. Here we go.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Show will go live in 5 seconds.
Blog Talk
Radio 3.
All my friends are eating steak.
Quiet on the set. Can we please have quiet on the set?
Hello and welcome to the Far From Normal Radio Show with your hosts Jay Moss, Bud Vino, and Jesse Weiner.
Well, hello, and welcome once again to the Far From Normal Radio Show. Awesome stuff going on. And first of all, as always, I'd like to welcome in my tag team host here, Mr. Bud Vino. Bud, how are you doing?
Yo, and yo, Money Moss. October 10th, 2017, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, Jay. My favorite part of the week, brother, and oh, it feels so good having you back. I feel whole what is that, Jerry Maguire, Jay? You complete me, brother. You complete me. Unfortunately, this is usually where I hand it over to our other cohort, Jessie Weiner, but Jessie has a very good excuse for not being on. She had the leader in reasons why not to be somewhere. She had a root canal today. The mother of all health. So, Jessie, we love you. You're with us in spirit. And Jay and I are going to go old school, just like we did from show one to whatever. Just he and I rolling raw and old style. Jay, so good to have you back, man. We have a great show lined up. I'm so excited. I love you, brother. You've been missed.
Absolutely. Thanks, brother. And before we get right into things on our first guest here, I'm going to go ahead and get to a couple of housekeeping things real quick. On our calendar of events, the only event that I have as of right now happens to be Sunday, November the 5th, Shared Parenting Event, 7 p.m. at the State House Inn in Springfield, Illinois, sponsored by Dads Can Too, Illinois Fathers for Equality, and Americans for Equal Shared Parenting. So if you're anywhere near Springfield, Illinois, if you're 3 hours away and you can get there, please get there. If you're 5 hours away and you can get there, get there. The numbers are ultimately important that we get as many there as we possibly can. I believe there is a $10 donation at the door that will also help with the facilities and everything like that. So please be there if you can. So we're going to roll right into the birthday list real quick here. I'm going to get to this because we got our guest here holding on the line, and I want to make sure I get to it. Yes. So today, Donna Smith, Lee Harris, Mike Murphy, Yvette Elisa Henderson, Nancy Srebel, Andrew Coleman, Jeremy Atwood, Sabrina Haywood. Wednesday, we've got Jamie Howard, Thomas Legault, Sam Beebe, Randy Brewington. Thursday, Brian Huggins, Michelle Guzman, Rafael Franco, and Christy Nichols. Friday, we have Michael Brooks, Rita Finley, Paige Roberts, Crystal Morgan, Susan Emmers, and our own Brenda Johnson on Friday. So happy birthday to them. And also Saturday, we've got Isis Clark, Patrick Clarkson, Nancy Drago. Sunday, we've got Stephen Bakersfield out there, Noel Shelby, Nancy DeGroot, John Costa, Lillian Song, and Monday, Louis Roderick, Claudia Barlow, Amy Krogman, Valerie K. Lazarus, Kathy Shedd, Carlila Sherman, Phil Cross, Stephen Ray, R.K. Hendricks, Kenneth Freeman, and Eric Bigelow to top off the list on Monday. So happy birthday to all of you from the Far From Normal radio show staff. And we hope you have a great birthday. If you have other announcements that you would like us to list on air, or you have birthdays that you would also like to have us announce, some people like to have, their son or their daughter announce their birthday live on the radio. We would definitely do that for you. Definitely send us a line to the Far From Normal radio show on Facebook, and we would be happy to oblige. Okay.
Jay, let me just say real quick. The listeners out there might suspect you to be rusty after a hiatus. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves me right, I don't know if we had a chance to do the birthdays the week before, and I think there was a reason for that. So, in all reality, you've been away, and you did not even stutter, skip a beat. It's like just natural. Happy birthday to everybody out there.
Yes.
As Jay mentioned, the Brenda Johnson, the Lee Harris is out there, Kathy Sheds, everybody that Jay mentioned. Happy birthday. Make it a wonderful one. And thank you for listening, everybody. Awesome job, Jay. Flawless.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I am happy to be back. Definitely, I had a little bit of a hiatus. My son had an event, and so I had to be off last week. In that process, also, I started a hunger strike to represent the 23 veterans a day that commit suicide, a group called the Second Class Citizens are out there for veterans groups, and they estimate, now this is an estimation, and it's taken just from one source, but the estimation is 3/4 of those 23 a day commit suicide when it comes to the family court systems. So that's why I started this hunger strike, was to represent them, and hopes that, you know, we can bring some awareness, and we already have actually been called by the VFW. So that is going on. So I'm on day 8, and so I'm really looking forward to hearing from our next guest, but I'm wondering if maybe he dropped off the line real quick for us. So I'm going to check here real quick.
Yeah, well, I'll say this, Jay. First of all, and I hats off to you. And as I've said, it's how it looks to you. And I think that your cause and your motivation for doing what you're doing is honorable and commendable. And you look good for 8 days, brother. You look good. Still going strong. That heart doesn't stop beating.
Yeah.
Strongest.
Yeah.
Last thing to burn on the human body is the heart, because it's all muscle, folks. It's not bone.
That's absolutely true here. So I'm just gonna make sure here, because obviously we've got some numbers crossed, and I want to make sure that I get the right button here. So
well, I know Ted, I think, had his number beforehand, so we should be good in that regard. So
yes, absolutely. So I believe I've got him on the line right now, Mr. Ed Opperman, and Ed actually hosts a show called the Opperman Report on iHeartRadio. He also has a background as a private investigator. He's done some amazing work. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce him, Mr. Ed Opperman. How are you doing this evening?
Hey, guys. How are you? I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Doing amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, and we greatly appreciate you. And like I was telling my cohort Bud here earlier, to me, the Opperman Report for me really almost ranks up there when we're talking radio to TV, really kind of ranks up there to me to be almost like a Sean Hannity, because you do such an amazing job. You're an amazing patriot for this country, bringing out all of the stories and the lines out there that have come out, and even done a lot of the investigation work yourself, especially when it comes down to the Clintons and the Russian adoption issue. And I know that was a big one for you. So I wanted to give you some time to kind of explain some of the things that went on with that report.
Okay, which one? With the Clintons and Haiti, or the Clinton, or the Russian adoptions with Trump?
Well, yeah, the Russian adoptions. Let's go that way first.
Well, first off, Mr. Opperman, this is Bud Vino, and I thank you for coming on beforehand off the air, and I'll do the same on the air. Thank you so much for taking the time out.
Absolutely.
I'm honored, humbled. I trolled you a little bit yesterday, too, and I'll have to concur with Jay and the Hannity thing. You even have that kind of look, which I like. Again, it's an honor. You're a man who's amazing at his craft, so we can learn from you. And, again, this is going to be wonderful. We've been looking forward to this. So, again, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So,
very welcome.
So we definitely want to get into the Russian adoption issue, because obviously that starts to trickle down, and it affects a lot of the people that listen to our show in particular, because we're really part of the parental equality movement, so to speak, or representing for children's rights, another issue. But our movement, or our community, so to speak, is kind of rather large, because it also entails things like domestic abuse and different situations. And so that's why we kind of want to bring this all-inclusive kind of thing in a package out here to the American people, really, so that they can be enlightened and understand what's actually going on that they really are not aware of.
Well, Jay, first of all, I want to take my hat off to you for this 8-day fast, this hunger strike. God bless you with that. And
thank you.
I'm a big faster my whole life. Ever since I got saved years and years ago, I've been fasting. And lately, I do this thing called a Daniel fast, 21 days with no coffee, no alcohol, no sugar, no meat. And so God bless you with that. I'm behind you 100%. And you're going to find a lot of strength coming out of that, too. It's going to be a blessing in your life. Have you fasted before in the past? Or this is something new?
This, for me, I've done like every once in a while I'll do like a retreat, and I'll do like a weekly kind of fast. So this 17-day thing, though, is really brand new, and it's kind of pushing the limit because this is no food. This is vitamins and water. That's it. And really the only reason I'm taking vitamins is because there's some of these special vitamins that I'm taking that put some protein actually into my body, and it's only because that I take hydrocodone I'm a disabled veteran, so I take hydrocodone fentanyl for my issues with pain, and so I have to have that in my system, otherwise I'd have severe stomach pain, cramps and everything else, which I have experienced a few stomach cramps, but that's not anything out of the ordinary when you fast, obviously.
Yeah, I hear you. And those are some serious painkillers, man. So God bless you.
Yes.
So with the Russian adoption thing, okay, I'll tell you how I stumbled across this.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was, you remember when it came out that Trump was meeting with those Russians, and they says, well, the cover story was that first we were talking about the Russian adoptions. And I says, well, this is interesting, Russian adoptions, because when I was looking into Pizzagate, okay, what happened was there was this company, this angel adoption agency, and the people involved with the angel adoption agency were clicking on and liking those weird pictures for Alefantis on his Instagram, all that weird stuff he had going on. And what would an adoption agency be doing associating with this kind of material? It was just very bizarre. So I started looking into them. And looking into them, I found out that they were involved in a case where this woman was going to give up her baby for adoption. They had paid for some hospital fees. But at the last minute, when the baby was born, she changed her mind. She wanted to keep her own baby. And this company actually ambushed her down in the parking lot of the hospital and threatened to call the police and have her arrested for not paying for the hospital bill because they're sticking her with the hospital bill, and took the baby out of her arms. To this day, she still does not know where that baby is.
Oh, my. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds to me, Ed, exactly like some of the things that we're hearing within the movement when we hear issues like, unfortunately, DCF, CPS coming in and taking children almost right out of the womb and taking these children away. We've even had issues where we had Maddie Shea Mitchell on, who is out there with Liam Change the World, and she has this organization trying to help these parents. And there was one parent that she was representing, actually, that had some difficulties, I'm not exactly sure what they were, but they actually had a judge put this child down with propofol, of all things. Can you imagine that?
No, I can't imagine that. This was a living baby that they put to sleep.
Oh,
yes.
Deplorable, Ed. We had a show about this, and it was honestly heartbreaking. Jay and I discussed it. It was really emotional.
I'd love to get that lady on my show and expose that situation. That's terrific, yeah.
Oh, yeah, without question. And I'll tell you, it's just like what you're talking about. A lot of people can't, their delicate sensibilities don't allow them to wrap their minds around this, as a reality. But unfortunately, it is, as you know, Mr. Opperman, you expose this sort of thing all the time. Unfortunately, yeah, it was Jay, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was 4 months ago, if I'm not mistaken, right around there.
Yeah, I believe it's about 4 months ago. And Maddie Shea Mitchell kind of introduced us to this situation. She came on, represented the family. And she does a lot of work with this organization that she's built on her own because she had a child that died at birth. And so these kind of things obviously happen. And so she was trying to help the family. And then you had also CPS jumped in, got involved, and took the older daughter away from the family during this time too. It was just unreal. And so Liam Changed the World.com with Maddie Shea Mitchell went out there and tried to raise money to pay for the headstone and the burial, and she did an amazing job doing that. But we hear these horror stories all the time. So this should not be surprising that we would have some issues out here now. I'm not sure of the actual involvement with as far as Pizzagate is concerned. I don't know if we can call that a farce or if there was some actual truth to it or not. There's not really enough evidence to tell you one way or the other.
I can say this about Pizzagate, that I have two witnesses I've taken statements from off the air. One was threatened directly by Elefantis. He's already been to the police. We have a whole statement from him. He's been to the police with the whole thing. And another one, and his family was threatened, his girlfriend was threatened. The other one is someone who worked over there who not only was sexually harassed himself, has a whole statement he gave me, but also has knowledge of a son of another employee over there being sexually harassed. And sexually abused, and actually had sex with a kid. So I have actual witnesses in that case that aren't even for the radio. This is off the radio kind of stuff I'm working on.
Right.
So there's that. But with the Russian adoption thing, and it's not even just Russian adoption, it's all foreign adoptions. Because what happens is there's very little vetting of these parents to take these kids from other countries. Russia had some vetting, but many of these countries don't. There's countries in Africa and Asia where you can just go pick up a kid and bring it back. And there's all kinds of trafficking that goes on in these countries where they kidnap children, they take them to these orphanages, and the orphanages sell them to Americans. Now, there's this thing that after these children come to the United States, the kids have problems, okay, because they have attached parenting problems, they have issues. Horrific issues. And I forget the phrase for it, but there's a whole community of these families that reach out overseas to adopt kids from overseas. And when they get here and when they have problems with them, they call it what they're going to give up the kid for adoption here a second time. They want to rehome them like a pet. And they have groups on Facebook. They have groups in Yahoo groups of rehoming these adopted kids. And they're practically, I've seen these ads myself with my own eyes, where they're practically putting these kids up for sale, and they're marketing them with photographs, talking about, this is our little 9-year-old girl, our little 10-year-old girl. She's acting out sexually aggressive. She's using alcohol. She's using pot, and we want to get rid of her as quickly as we can. And wait a second. No, it's horrific, okay? I meant to get back to work on it and do some more investigation on this, and I got distracted with other things, but it's something I definitely have to go back and work on. And the way they give up these kids here once they're in the States, there's no vetting, there's no process, there's no lawyers involved. They basically do a power of attorney, where they give a power of attorney to another family and say, you have the right to enroll my kid in school and take him to the doctor and that kind of guardianship, just by going to a notary in a bank and getting a form notarized. And that's all that's going on. And there's been some reporting on this where these kids are being sent to homes where there's some stories where these kids are sent to homes where other children have been killed in the home. Other adopted kids have been killed in the home. And it's a whole horrific situation with the Russian adoptions. I did a long report on it. If you just Google Russian adoptions at Opera, you'll find it.
Yeah. Well, I know, Jay, we've got a lot of listeners, Jay, right now, and I appreciate it. And one of them is our dear friend, Charlie Stecker. And I know that this subject is near to Charlie's heart. So shout out to Mr. Stecker out there and to everybody out there that is listening to the show, and this is affected and will affect in the future. Charlie, you're a warrior. Charlie is, as some people know, is a mentor of mine and a dear one. He's given me a lot of really invaluable advice, and he's honestly an awesome, awesome man. So thanks, everybody, for listening. I just want to interject there a little bit real quick. So thanks, Jay, for letting me.
Yeah.
And to you, Mr. Opperman. Thank you. It's empowering a lot of people. It's empowering a lot of people. So thank you, Mr. Opperman.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, now iHeartRadio when we're talking about iHeartRadio, this is created pretty much as a internet radio for the Christian aspect. Was that not correct?
Oh, iHeartRadio is Clear Channel Radio. So no, you're
Okay.
thinking of that Catholic iHeartRadio thing. Yeah.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. No, my show. If you just Google Opperman Report, it's all over the place. In fact, I have my own station as well. It's called AwakeRadio.us with a bunch of hosts, and I'm on.
I thought I saw that.
Yeah.
I
It's
thought I
American
saw
Freedom
that in the
Radio,
shop.
Spreaker, iTunes. I'm all over the place. YouTube. You can find my show everywhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's out
Absolutely.
there, and I mean that in more ways than one, in a good way. In a good way. I love it. I looked at you a little bit yesterday. I love your stuff.
Okay.
And when we're talking about, these Russian adoptions, and we get back into some of that a little bit, because, obviously the reason I kind of brought this up is because there's a lot of the Christian organizations that are out there, different independent ones even, that are stating that you can adopt a child for this much, or you can adopt a child, and it's really a rather nominal fee when you're looking at it. You're going, okay, well, I can adopt a child from Venezuela for $5,000. Really? Something's not right here, because yes, you have to pay for passports, you have to pay for the adoption on that side, and then you should have to pay for the adoption here within the United States to be able to adopt that child. And then because that puts you in a situation where, okay, they need to kind of keep checking on you, make sure, the child's doing well, the welfare of the child's being taken care of, and that you're doing the correct things. A lot of these are not. They're not doing that. And so basically it's basically like you pay for a round trip ticket and a one-way ticket for that child to come back with you. You pay a couple $1,000s to them. You get the adoption papers within a few days, and off you go, and never look back. And it's unfortunate for the child, because it's just like what we have in this movement a lot of times, because we have a lot of Native Americans even within the movement. And so it kind of correlates within the fact that, okay, if you're taking a Native American out of their culture as a child, and how will they ever know what their culture ever was, or what their heritage is? So it's a rough adjustment, obviously, for the child growing up, not knowing what that heritage was, where they came from, what they were a part of. And so there's a lot of adjustment disorder that goes on, obviously, correct?
Well, Jay, though, but even more horrific is the adoptions that go on here within the United States. The same things are happening. The same things are happening. Because what happened was, when I started looking into that Angel Adoption Agency, the one with involved with the Pizzagate stuff, I got in touch with this organization of advocates for people who want to restore their parental rights with their adopted kids. And after I became involved with them, I started doing a lot of adoption investigations, reuniting kids that were adopted out, or people that were parents and children that were separated through the adoption system. They want to find their biological parents. They want to find their biological kids. So I've gotten involved in this community. And what I found out is there is less, with these private adoptions that are done in here in the United States through these law firms, there is less a tracking of these children than there is when you buy and sell a car, okay? And there's havens in this country like Utah, where they have really, really liberal laws, where a lot of these adoption agencies, even if it's going on in Florida, let's say, they'll be based out of Utah running the adoption, because that's what the laws are most favorable to them. So, and I found out another thing too, that what they're doing is too, there's so much money involved in this, that what they'll do is they'll insert people into those crisis pregnancy centers, They insert volunteers in there. These women come in there, they're in crisis, they want to get an adoption, and they talk about the adoption, and they say, well, don't worry, your baby's going to go to a wonderful family. And then, meanwhile, nobody knows where these kids are going.
Wow. Yeah. And so we get the backlash on this, because we're parents who just want to be in our child's lives, and then your child is taken from you. And more than likely, more than likely, I'm going to say this, and I know it's going to break some people's hearts, but it's probably true, and you should kind of come to the realization that there is a real possibility of sex trafficking within the United States among children to these pedophiles that are running around.
It is happening. It's definitely, without question, unequivocally, without a doubt, beyond a shadow of a doubt, 1,000,000% happening.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. And when I had Detective Jim Rothstein on my show early on, 4 years ago, a New York City detective, now he's a mayor up there in Wisconsin, he said when he was working Vice that these kids who wind up in a foster system, it's cherry picking. They're placed into this system. And the whole family court system is so corrupt. Your audience is totally familiar with this, but I have personal experience with this all the time. It's so corrupt. They drag you in there and they bleed you dry until you have no money left. They know your child is the most precious thing you have, and you'll be willing to pay for these custody evaluations. They're all giving kickbacks to the judges and the lawyers who get them on these cases. There's no doubt about it.
Right. No question.
Oh, you want to know something else? Back to the Russian adoptions for a second? When this became known, there was a big scandal about how this family here in the United States couldn't deal with their Russian baby, and they put him on a plane with a plane ticket and just sent him back to Russia when he got with a letter in his hand. So when he got to the other side, said, "Hey, they turned me back. Where do I go?" They had hearings. Yeah, they had hearings here in the United States to make it easier, for these adoptions to go through, and for there to be less legislation around who's tracking these kids once they get here. The exact opposite of what we need.
Wow.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So that's almost.
It's really incomprehensible. I mean, Jay, it's unimaginable. And you know what and I say funny, and I don't mean that in a ha-ha sort of way.
Right.
It's far beyond, as most things are, it's far beyond even the scope of what we know. Because even as putrid as we think it is, usually things are even worse than that in terms of details and corruption. And it's absolutely rampant, out of control, and it needs to be addressed. And I think that's one of the things, too, is the dirty little secret. And certain people, they just don't want to address it. It's hard. I just sweep it on the right. It doesn't concern me. Oh, it does. And a lot more ways than one. So we have to stand up.
You mentioned before, when you get into family court, the best welfare for the child is the last thing that anybody has consideration for.
Right.
Especially these custody evaluators. These psychological. They all know each other. They're all passing work back and forth to each other. It's a money-making game.
Well, the funny thing is, too, Ed, I've dealt with a lot of these people, too, and even the evaluators, and I usually I'll flip the tables within about 5 minutes. I'll be evaluating them. It's some of these people, honestly, and I've said to you, I don't know how you got to this position where you're qualified, but I'm about to shake you down, and you're going to question whether or not to quit tonight or not. And if you're in the game and you shouldn't be, that's exactly what you should do, is quit while you're ahead.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And Ed, you're exactly right when we're talking about the money scheme, because this always leads us back to how do we get people involved who are the unaffected so they'll become affected. And it always, for us, boils down to trying to expose what's called Title IV-D of the Social Security Act and Title IV-E of the Social Security Act. And really, what we need to start understanding is that with this and how it is and how it was administrated, this was an action that was taken by the Child Support Enforcement Agency, and they went to the Social Security Administration and said, hey, we need funds in order to keep this thing going. So we're going to make an action transmittal and say this is what the law is. But there was no actual law passed at the time. So what they did was they made this action transmittal, and what can cancel that whole entire system and bring it down right now is one signature. One signature, the signature of the President of the United States, who can make an executive order and cancel Title IV and take the incentives out altogether. But unfortunately, we've got to get the ear of the President of the United States, and that's not so easy to do all of the time. However, what we've kind of come across and we've understood is if we can get the President of the United States ear, we can talk to him and we can say, hey, look, you look like the president who saved the Social Security Administration's fees or funds. You're going to look like the president who reunited families. You're going to look like the president who ended all of this corruption. That's instant reelection, in my opinion. And that's a humble opinion, obviously, because I'm just a piddly old disabled veteran on 90% VA disability. So, I mean, I'm not even a taxpayer at this point in time.
Yeah, you haven't even had lunch.
Yeah. But I haven't even had lunch. Here's my lunch, a bottle of water. Okay.
The liquid diet, the liquid lunch.
Exactly. And you being a private investigator helps in this process because it allows you to have a microphone to some of these people within the movement and try to kind of explain how we can expose the corruption and the fraud that's going on in these family courts. So with that background, I'm going to let you kind of delve into that because I think that that's important, how we can go back and supposedly follow the money trail, so to speak.
Well, that's a good question. You know, to follow the money trail, like with the corruption in the courts, it can be done because I know that a lot of these takebacks are done by check. I've seen it. You know, I volunteered for Equal Rights with Divorced Fathers over here. I've done a lot of work for them because I had my own custody thing, by the way, too. You know, to start in 2005. Today, by the way, there's hope for everybody out there. Today, I have full custody of my daughter, and she's 17 years old. She's going to college. She's a great kid. Everything worked out great in the end. So there's hope for fathers out there, even though you think,
absolutely,
you may think everything's stacked up against you, but you got to keep your nose to the grindstone. You just got to keep plugging away.
If I could, go ahead, Ed. I just want to say I'm so glad you said that before you get rolling because again, everything happens for a reason. I had somebody, I was going to give a shout out at the end of the show there, but Amanda Head out there had a nice conversation with her today, and I know. And shout out to her husband out there. And there's fathers out there every day, and mothers too, that literally are so desperate, Mr. Opperman, and they don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. Everything's stacked against them, they feel like, and it's great to see somebody like you, a healthy, loving father with a healthy, well-adjusted 17-year-old, as it seems. And again, hats off to you, and it's great. People need that sort of encouragement. Out there, our friend Brandon. Amazing man. Ronnie Cohen. I said I was going to give a shout out to Ronnie. I'll probably do it at the end of the show again. This is the sort of encouragement people need to hear. They need to hear these success stories. And I almost said small success stories. They're huge. They're amazing. And it's all about loving and staying the course. I believe Ed said something to that effect. Staying the course. And again, it will work out. Keep doing the right thing one way or the other, even if it seems hopeless, helpless, and everything else useless. It isn't. Stay the course. Keep working. Keep fighting. Keep loving, and you will come through on top in the end one way or the other. Thanks, Mr. Opperman, and I'll be done with that for now. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
I'll give you a little background on my personal case, okay? Because at the time I was working from home. I was raising my daughter, had raised her for 5 years from birth, and you know, we were together 24 hours a day. Finally, things got so bad, I had to file for divorce. The lawyer that my ex-wife hired was in the newspaper here in Las Vegas for bribing the judge that we had, okay?
Oh, wow.
I'll say that again. Her lawyer was in the paper for bribing our judge, okay? All right?
Wow.
So that's what I was up against. Now, besides being a paralegal, and I'm in court all the time, right? I'm besides being a private investigator, I'm also a paralegal. Okay. All right. So I get kicked out of my house. Yeah, go ahead.
I got to say, you have kind of a Hollywood sort of story, especially for what you do in radio and everything else. You've got kind of one of those stories that you wouldn't believe. That's amazing. Amazing. I can't wait to hear this.
My life story, everything's crazy. I have no idea. But I don't know how I get involved in all, but I do. But the thing is, and I think it's because I'm observing, because a lot of people wouldn't notice that their wife's lawyer is bribing the judge. I had to look it up and find it. But, okay. I get kicked out of my house. I can't work because all my stuff is in my office in the house. Okay, I can't earn any money. I'm living at the Budget Suites, okay, which is one of these extended stay motels here in Las Vegas. Right? Just imagine that.
The no-tell motel.
Yeah.
Hey, well, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right?
Yeah, I'm working on my case. I'm working on these motions. I got motions that I'm a paralegal that are gold with exhibits. The 50-page motion. I know what I'm doing. Okay, and the judge isn't even listening to me. The judge isn't listening because I find out later on because there's all this corruption. The judge actually worked for that lawyer in his lawyer's office, and at one time during my case, that lawyer was the campaign finance manager for that judge. All the donations were going through his office to that judge. But the judge liked me.
My gosh.
The judge liked me. Okay, the judge was for real. Finally, I found out, it went on and on and on. And let me tell you something, too. You talk about fasting and praying, because I was only allowed to see my daughter during the daytime I pick her up and take her to school, and I have to drop work at 7 o'clock at night. And then there were a couple of days I didn't see her at all. And what I would do is I would fast those days we weren't together. Anytime we weren't together, I would fast, and I'd pray. But one time, I almost gave up. Because we were going through hell, and I almost gave up. I was broke. I had nothing. I had no income. And I was reading Ecclesiastes in the Bible, and it said in the book of Ecclesiastes, it's a time to sow, it's a time to reap, it's a time and it said in there, there's a time to give up. And I can picture it in my mind right now, walking away from the church. I was talking to a friend of mine from church who was going through the same thing. And I said, maybe I should give up. Do you think I should give up? This was 12 years ago. Do you think I should give up? And I didn't give up. Thank God I didn't give up. Thank God fathers out there can't give up, because it's the most important thing. If you look at the statistics, children who are raised without a father in the home or without a father in their life are 10 times more likely, I don't know what the exact number is, but more likely to drop out of high school, more likely to get pregnant, more likely for petty crimes, shoplifting arrests before high school. All these things. So I went out and I shopped around. I found out the other lawyer who was bribing that judge. Okay, and I hired him. I hired that guy, man. And soon he didn't even know the case. He didn't even know what was going on because he had just taken the case the day before. But the judge remembered all my motions, and the judge started arguing on my behalf and pulling out all this. And then I had a fair shot. I had a fair
right.
So let me tell you something, man, and that's one of the biggest things for people. If you got money for a lawyer, you got to do that kind of politics stuff. You got to find out who's in with the judge, and so you get a fair fight at least. You're not going to get away with murder, but you can at least get a fair fight, which is all you really.
Yeah, and it really is. Go ahead.
Another thing, too, is try and stay out of court. The last thing you want to do is go into court at all. If you can avoid going to court, if you can work something out with your ex-husband or your ex-wife, do that, that's the best possible scenario for all this, even if you can't get along. Find somebody in your church or a relative you both get along with who can mediate for you, or even hire a private mediator who can help you out. Because once you're in that system, they're going to milk you dry with real estate evaluators, sending you to classes, and it's so corrupt. Their friends run these classes. They're friends of these evaluators. They're all friends with each other. They're passing money back and forth, and the last thing they care about is the well-being of the child. It's the very last thing they care about.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I've even noticed that here, even in the state of Illinois. I'm sure you've noticed it out there in New Hampshire as well, but it's just everyone within the system is friends with everyone in the system. And, they invite each other over for backyard barbecues and everything else. And it's just, they meet each other out there for at a country club. That's what they do. And this is a problem within America, because what child support really is, when we get down to brass tacks on what it is legalized wealth redistribution and extortion. They're extorting money out of you for you to see your child, and then giving it to the other parent. But because they give it to the other parent, what they do is they get matching funds from the Social Security Administration. Now, I've had arguments with even attorneys on this. However, if you follow the money trail, you will find that this same money and this same matching funds go to two different places. And unfortunately, there's a case out there that it exposes this completely. That's a case called Blessings versus Freestone. And in that case, they say from what is collected through child support enforcement, gets subsidized by the federal government up to 5 times that amount, and then goes out and it pays not only the welfare system, but it also goes to pay the bar associations of those local states. And then that money trickles down to pay those judges to make the same bad decisions that they make every day that are biased decisions. And how you can tell if your judge, and again, I will say this, how you can tell if your judge is one of those who is taking those, you match up what they say in their local paper that they're hired for, and you match that amount to what is shown out there that they earn on ballotpedia.com. Shows my judge makes $82,500 in incentives every single year through the Title 4D administration. That's ridiculous, especially when their salary's at $100,000 a year. So they're getting almost double what they're making. So it's legalized extortion. It is set up to make sure that your child fails, and it cripples them for life. And like you said, Ed, this makes it so we have to look in history no further than the south side of Chicago. If we went back to the 70s, we would see in the 1970s, 1980s, we would see a lot of these fathers being incarcerated for an inability to pay child support. And then what ends up happening is the children become criminal, and we go, oh, why did this happen? Well, you took the father or the mother out of the equation. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, exactly, Jay. And also, too, as we've discussed at length before, and, you know, if one parent is cutting down the other to that child, remember, that child is half that other parent, no matter what. And they can feel it. That's their mother or father. And so when you take that other parent out, we're just say the father in these cases, because we're all men here, but it goes both ways a lot of the times. But you take the child's father out, okay? And I don't care what anyone says. Boys need their fathers, just like they need their mothers. Boys, especially around the prepubescent years and all throughout life. We teach, if you're doing it right, you teach boys how to become men. That's what our jobs are, how to conduct themselves with integrity, with honor, how to fight for what they believe, how to say no to certain things, how to say yes to certain things, how to stand up and be a man. So not only do you take that away, but you tell them the only man in their life is shit, which is telling them that they're shit. And then you wonder why they're in therapy and why they have no self-confidence and no self-esteem and don't even know how to, they're all flat squirrels and don't know how to make a decision and don't know how to do the right thing and don't know how to stand up. Well, that's why. Don't complain, because these people know what they're doing, all these country club partners. I see people get frustrated all the time, Jay. It's not that they don't know, it's they don't care. They want to baffle you with bullshit, so you'll play the game for years and feel guilty, and eventually they don't care if you kill yourself as long as they bleed enough money out of you as they possibly can. They don't care about your child. There's certain people that are in power here, right? All these judges and things that we trust, all these lawyers, we trust them to do this all over the years. How's that working out? How's that working out? So we got to tackle it. And you got to come at it from a different angle and say, I'm not playing your game anymore. You got to play mine. So, and then you stand up and change this putrid system. Thanks.
Yes.
Yes.
You know,
talk about the country club relationships and the kickbacks and stuff. A couple of things I do as a private investigator. I work on a lot of restraining order cases, violation of restraining orders, and they claim that the person that has restraining order gets them. They made contact with the other person via email, and I'm a digital forensic investigator, so I can dispute that evidence. Okay.
Right.
Another thing I do is I do this thing called an infidelity investigation, where if you give me an email address, I can trace it back to dating sites and swinger sites and porn sites to prove that a parent would be unfit because they have a sexual addiction, or maybe they're involved in a sex trade.
Right.
So I've been in court a lot without the plaintiff, without the defendant, just me and the lawyers. Okay, I've sat there in those conversations, those casual conversations at the cafeteria or the bar and stuff like that, and I've heard them talk about cases where they says, "Well, no, they're negotiating," and says, "Well, we can't do that because the last lawyer before me, he kicked up to the judge, and we can't violate that code." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We already made that deal. We cut that deal 2 years ago, and we can't change it ever.
Yep. That's exactly what they're doing. They're cutting
the
deals behind the scenes. Yep.
Behind the facts too, by the way, too. They like to draw things out because their client still has money. But and they'll talk frankly. My client has no more money. We got to get this thing over with.
Exactly.
Right. Disgusting.
And that's why I've told people, Ed, is when you walk into court and let's say you've hired an attorney and the other side has an attorney and they say, okay, you guys, you stay right here, and we're going to go to the back, and we're going to have a conversation with the judge, and we'll come right out. That's your key to say, if you go back there, that's collusion, you're done, you're fired. Because that's where they're going to make the decisions. And we talked about this before. What happens when they come out? This is a three-ring circus, and you hear, dun, 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 dun,
circus.
That's exactly right.
Jay, that's right, because if they pulled that going out back stuff with me, I'd be like, oh, that's right. I'm sure, Your Honor, you're going to tell me all about it over beers at the tavern later with me, right?
Exactly.
You don't want to pull that with me because, it won't be good. They don't do that. No, I will say, and I'll say this, there are some good ones out there. And unfortunately, it's just like police officers. The bad ones, unfortunately, make it horrible for the good ones. And almost, and not even almost, a lot of the times, these bad apples poison the good ones and make it impossible for them to do the right job out of fear of losing their job. And trust me, they will. If it's a situation where the good outrides the bad, unfortunately, it's people, unless the other party goes very public, and that it's a career killer. I'll tell you that. Depends where their heart is.
Exactly. And Ed, I know that you know this one, and so I want to run this by you for one of the very last things that we talk about tonight. And when we talk about the 13th Amendment, unfortunately the missing amendment that's been replaced, that has basically said that if you are a lawyer, really you're not to hold political office. And here's why. You now have a conflict of interest. And what they've already expressed within the Constitution was the fact that they needed separation between the different branches of government. So when we get down to these things, and we're finding that now we have the lawyers who have now taken over not only the judicial branch, but now the legislative branch, when we're talking about this, doesn't that somehow constitute some type of a conflict of interest? Because really what we're having is legislators protecting our lawyers in legislation, protecting other lawyers.
You know, something I've never considered that, but the way you just described that, it does make sense. How could you have a legislature person who's a legislator?
Right.
Right, either office. This just doesn't make sense. But I just want to go back to one more thing, too, really quick, is that when you talk about how it's the worst thing you can have is when the lawyers go back with the judge. Not in every case, okay? You guys are both reasonable guys. But I've had situations, too, where everything's going good until the client starts opening their mouth in court and just destroys their case for themselves. You know? What is going on here? Just shut up.
Yeah. Well, that would be a frustrating thing as an attorney. That would be frustrating. You need to I have a real good situation with my attorney because he knows me and Jay knows me well enough. I vent a lot in writing my attorney, as I do sometimes with Jay, but Steve, I'll just write. And he'll call me and congratulate me for utilizing the way I'm supposed to and sending all that venomous sort of thing toward him. So that way he takes it, we laugh about it. He's one of the rare, amazing good ones. Heaven sent, honestly. So shout out to Steve out there. I love you, brother. I hope your procedure went well today, pal.
Absolutely. So Definitely want to give you a big shout out for your show, Mr. Opperman. You've done an amazing job on ours, and we greatly appreciate you and your time and your effort. So can you tell our listeners where they can catch you at, so that way they can tune into your show as well?
Yeah, the show is on. I do a show Friday night, 5 to 7 p.m. I'll have one or two guests on, recorded guest interviews. And then I'll do a live segment from 7 to 8 where I just discuss whatever's on my mind that week. And then Saturday again from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., but nothing after that. And tomorrow, by the way, I'm taping with Jackie the Joke Man Martling from the Howard Stern Show.
Oh, Jackie. Old school. Yeah. You're going old school with Jackie. Tell Jackie we said hi from the Far From Normal Show.
Yeah, it turns out he's a great guy. He's a really fun guy. He's a very nice guy. And then I have coming
up... I've heard that about him, actually. I just read an article like a week ago about him, so it's ironic. I hadn't heard about him in a long time. I know he and Howard had some issues back in the day, so that should be fun for you.
Oh yeah, you know what? It's the happiest I've been before a guest. I've had a lot of big guests. You know, I had the Richard Lambert, the head of the FBI who investigated the anthrax case, and Ray Pang. Big guests and big stuff. You know, I really enjoyed. But this is the most happy I've been before. Yeah, Jackie the Joke Man.
Well, Jackie has a really awesome, dry, hilarious humor. I've seen some of the stuff. He's awesome. When is that, Mr. Opperman? Tomorrow?
No, I'm going to play that Saturday night from 5 to 7. You can hear it on American Freedom Radio. Is one of the big stations.
All over that.
It's a little. They're up in New Hampshire. They play on one of those stations at AM in New Hampshire. So.
I can find it. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Look it up. So I'll look it up. Yeah, give a shout out to Mr. Jackie the Joke Man for us. Tell him much love, and we'll be listening for that replay Saturday.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you very, very much for coming on. We greatly appreciate you, and we'll definitely have you on again in the future, sir. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a blast, Mr. Opperman. Thank you.
Good night.
All right. Thank you.
Good night.
All right. Mr. Ed Opperman on the line.
Yeah, I can't believe an hour. I cannot believe an hour. I did a time check, and I had to do a double take. An hour, Jay? Slow it down, brother. That was a fun first hour. Educational, informational, empowering. That's the key.
Absolutely. And, he had so many good things to say. Obviously, if you got, a private investigator who has done his homework in this movement, and he's telling you that, hey, look, the corruption does exist. We've got actual bribes. We've got, things that are going on behind the scenes that are, they're not legal in any way, shape, or form. We've got these kangaroo courts, and I'm sorry if they don't like the fact that we call it a kangaroo court, but it is. They bounce all over the place.
Don't conduct yourselves like kangaroos, and we won't have to tell you that.
Well, yeah. Hey, yeah.
We just calls it like we sees it.
Yeah, I mean, if you hop around, you're probably a kangaroo. If you bark, you're probably a dog. If you meow, then you're a cat. That's
the way it is. Yes. If you're brown and kind of shaped like this, you're probably a piece of... Anyway, go ahead, Jake.
Well, yeah, and so that's kind of a smelly situation, but okay, we'll get right into...
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Yeah, those things. Yeah. So, but just an amazing guest. Obviously, Ed Opperman knows what he's talking about. He's been there. He's been through the Russian collusion issues, the Russian adoption issues. He handles pretty much about everything out there. And so definitely American Freedom Radio, iHeartRadio. He's out there on a bunch of different ones, like you said, iTunes, all over the place. And so having a guest like that on is amazing, especially when he's that big and has done this for this long and is telling you, look, I'm a private investigator. I can tell you for a fact that there has been collusion. There has been money taken by the family court system. This is wrong. It's illegal, and we know it. So that goes to show you right there that this is not, something that, the movement itself is just making up as we go along. This is factual. This is factual data. And you're getting it from several different sources, brother.
Right, exactly. And it's disconcerting. I know a lot of people, it makes people uneasy too, but acknowledgement is the first key, Jay, in terms of these issues. And that's the first thing you have to do is acknowledge and accept certain things for the way they are. That doesn't mean that you can't change them, but acknowledge the way they are and what they are right now. And until you do that, you can't attack it properly. If you want to BS yourself or whatever it is, you got to take it on and accept it as hard as it is, and then you make a plan, J. Moss.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and you stick to it, and you do not ever give up. Never give up.
Never. It's not even a word. Look, give up.
That's what they want from you. Honestly, that's what they want from you. This system wants you to give up. They want you to end your own life, because if you're ending your own life after this whole situation and what they put you through, that's what they want anyways, because now you no longer can challenge their authority. So they win. Don't let them win.
Exactly, Jay. And plus, a lot of these people, as horribly sad as it is, take their lives due to false allegations. Now, what happens the second someone takes their own life? It was all true. See? It was all true. Everything. And it's a good thing we didn't put that child with that person, because look what they would have done. And if we had put that child with them, they probably would have killed the child too. Oh, thank God for us. The system will keep going on the way it is because we saved that child. Thank God we did that. It's all bullshit. Do not take your own life because of things that aren't even true, in terms of the people that are accusing you don't even believe it, and the judges pointing fingers a lot of times don't even believe it. They don't care. So you need to be a better friend to yourself and start caring about yourself as much as you care about everybody else's opinions about you.
Absolutely. It's absolutely true. So we're going to get into our second hour here with Pink and a song called What About Us. And when you listen to this song, I really want you to think about this from the child's perspective. It's very, very emotional when you do that and put yourself in the child's perspective on this song. What About Us by Pink.
Much love, baby. We'll be right back.
So we'll just turn that down so we don't violate any copyright laws. We haven't quite gotten to the position where we get away, or they get away from using mainstream songs. It's great for blog talk radio, it's great for regular radio, but social media, even though they have a similar license to stream it, if enough people are watching, they'll delete it. You can't have a place where a song is recorded and can be a location where people use to go to listen to that song. And there's like a little loophole where sites like Blog Talk, even though technically they're not supposed to be recording these things, they are. But as we know, it's a gamble whether or not Facebook will delete them or not. So just don't want to take that chance. So while we're doing this, I can switch over to the second guest with you guys while you're watching. Not that you can see what I'm doing, but that was easy. 3 little clicks. While we're here, I could... Oh, bummer. There. Far From Normal says, hi, Ted. Hi, Far From Normal. Let's see. Do. Visionary Hustlers. Do. Hey, Sarah. Hey, I'm going to be sending your shirt out finally. After almost 2 months. So, people watching... You saw all of the Million Parrot Marches, Sarah? The Million Parrot March liveses? How are we doing here, by the way? Let's have a listen. Oh, still going. I could turn it off for you guys so I could hear it, but it's more funner just to check in and see. It's more funner. More funner. It's still going. Jay is back. Alright. He's waiting for the song as well. I'm just keeping you guys entertained. I should play something for you guys while we're waiting. We're getting close. Getting really close. Still waiting for Bud to get back. Here he comes. Song is almost over. We're this close. Alright, I'm going to bring them back on right now. I think they're ready. Oh wait, let Bud get his earphones on here. Take a sip of his cola. Almost there. Yeah, song's still not over. Let's see, what other comments do we have here? Seriously. Play it. Yeah, right now they're listening to Pink. If you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, you cannot hear me. You can only hear Pink. Which, you know, depending on your taste, could be good, could be bad. Thank you for watching, Veronica. You just got out of jail, I heard. Poor girl. I don't have anything queued up, and I haven't talked to them about it. You know, music is a touchy thing. People have different tastes, you know.
What about us?
What about us?
What about?
There we go. All right.
Awesome. So, What About Us by Pink. Awesome song. I like that. We are back on the Far From Normal radio show on the Future of Our Children's Radio Network, and also live on Facebook. And I am back with my co-host, Mr. Bud Vino. Bud, how are you doing?
Yo, Money Moss, second half. I'm already depressed, Jay, because it's not the last 10 minutes, but the last hour, and if the first half went anything like, if the second half goes anything like the first half, we're in for a treat. Yo, October 10th, 2017, Tuesday, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We've got a lot of wonderful listeners out there. We got some awesome reception, Jay. Amazing first half. And that means the second half is going to be even better. It just gets better and better every single minute, and it's due to my co-hosts and also, especially, and only the listeners out there, because if it weren't for you listeners, Jay would do what we did in the beginning when we talked about doing this, just talk to each other, and it's better this way. So, yeah, I mean, I love talking to Jay, but, you know, we would do this one way or the other. But, no, it's great to have listeners out there, and it's great to have all the support, Jay. Amazing. The amount of support that we've gotten is one of the things I don't think either one of us ever anticipated or you know, at all when we started this. It was for a reason. It was, we knew we had voices. We knew we could help people. We knew what we were going to be good at. And everything else, as I said in the private messages in the group today, everything else is just butter. You know, it is helping people. I know it is. That's the goal, and I know it's empowering people. Everything else is just frosting on that cake. We love you. Thanks for the support, and you're going to get through this, and we're going to do it together. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. And you touched on that just a little bit because, you know, before we did this radio show kind of gig, these were just actually phone calls. And we were just, you know, oh, hey, patch so-and-so in, and we'll have a phone call.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how they started out. And we said, you know what? We can do this on the radio, man.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, people that don't know, it was a very Jay got a hold of me one day, and I had been doing some work with somebody else beforehand, and it was serendipitously worked out perfectly, the timing of everything. And I always say that. Things work out the way they're supposed to. It's the waiting that is usually the problem for people. People, you know, obviously we live in an instant gratification society, but us as human beings, we're usually, a lot of times we need that. So if you can just wait and let things play out the way they're supposed to in life, it doesn't mean not working hard. As I say to people, some people might not understand this, I put no energy into things, zero. I put a lot of effort, but I don't put any energy. I let it go. I don't worry one way or the other. Jay knows this. I do what my heart says. I do the right thing, and I suggest I would implore everybody else to do that. Would behoove you to do this. And just put in all the work in the world. Work harder than you know anyone can, and let the rest go. Put no energy in and a lot of effort. You'll get there. And Jay and I this was kind of a thing. Hey, let's just see what we can do because I know we're going to have fun with each other. Even if no one else hears it, we're going to have fun, you and I on the air, and get some facts out, some info, some empowering information, and just try and build people up and go from there. And it's been way more than we expected. And we haven't even started yet. We're on show 35. It's just beginning. And thanks everybody again. It's a blast. And here we go. Second half out.
Thanks to everybody out there, because otherwise, Bud and I will have this, one-on-one conversation anyway. But quite frankly, we'll bring people in and talk to other people too. But, we get to share this with you every single week to 5K viewers. This is starting to be cool.
The average now with all the shares and everything is around 5,000. And I mean, we hit in, over 1,000 usually without a problem, especially now. And that's due to the listeners. Yeah, it's due to us. We got good content. I think we're good at what we do, but we interact with people. I talk to people during the week, in between the shows, and I know you do too. And it's such an honor for me. The people that I've met, the people that I've talked to, the men and women that I never anticipated, the strength I see in people. It's unbelievable. People that keep going. And I see people that cut themselves down, and I'm like, wow. If you've seen yourself throughout the course of the year, and I've seen what you've done and how you've grown, everybody is human. Everybody has those times where they feel weak. But, man, these people in this movement overall are amazing.
Absolutely. So without further ado, we want to go ahead and get to our second guest tonight, Mr. Robert Glasgow out there, Newfoundland, Canada. And he also is the president, CEO, and founder of Reunite Nation, Overcoming Parental Alienation out there. So how are you doing this evening, Robert?
Hi, guys. I'm doing well. Thank you very much, Bud and Jay, for having me on the show. It's 10:30, nearly 11 here now, but I'm ready to go.
Absolutely.
Mr. Glasgow, Bud Vino here. Hey, awesome. I was checking your stuff out earlier, and hats off to you for what you've done in terms of your battle and your victory and helping people and empowering people and showing people there is a light at the end of that tunnel. It's an honor to have you on, as I said to Mr. Opperman. It's an honor to have you and Mr. Glasgow. And honestly, this is going to be a blast. We're going to learn a lot from you. People are going to be empowered. Again, I checked your stuff out earlier, and awesome. This is how it's done.
Yes, absolutely. So you have done some amazing work already, obviously, in helping other people and empowering other people. You obviously have the opportunity now to reach even, outside of Canada, and you're obviously on with us here in the United States. What are some of the things that you can help in recognizing parental alienation? Not only one, but how you can help a person to kind of change that atmosphere, so to speak. Do some conditional, changes, so to speak, in your own life that will affect how the person with the narcissist personality that's committing these acts of parental alienation, how that affects everything.
Well, I guess even before my ex was diagnosed, I kind of knew something was up after a while, because she was just being totally unreasonable. I mean, she wouldn't let me take the kids to McDonald's. If I had visits, she had to be there to supervise. And then I decided to stand up to her, and then next thing I had to, $11,000 later, I got out of assault charges that she put me on, and went through a lot of hard times, I guess. But, I mean, parental alienation happens everywhere. I'm living in a town of 2,000 people, and she's from a town of 500 people. It was only 10 minutes in the difference, and I hardly ever seen the children, only up to hockey and things like that to show them while I was around. And I nearly gave up on it, but I'm glad I didn't, because now, I got my 2 children. But it was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Well, and also getting the children after 7 years and not seeing them was a bit of a shock too. But it was great, but it was hard,
right.
Very hard.
Right. So you had to go through the whole. Now did the courts there, did they do just an immediate change or reversal, or did they do more of a phase-in type schedule on that?
Well, it was supposed to be pretty much immediate, but one of the things my ex-wife told my son, and it broke my heart, was that, he started looking in my trunk for guns, because his mom told him, well, apparently over 5 or 6 years that I had guns in my car and I'd kill him if he came with me, and he was terrified. And now we discussed possibly foster care just as a transition, and we did that for 9 months, and it worked out great. But it was because I lived 30 seconds from the ocean, and my biggest fear was he was going to run out of the house, end up in the ocean and drown. But foster care worked out for me okay, because I had unrestricted access to it, and I was able to wean the children in. My daughter came with me pretty much before my son, because she, I don't know if she was younger, if she didn't get as, but she seems a lot tougher than my son. Like, right. She doesn't take any crap, it seems like, she's like that now. Like, no, like my son gets bullied in school sometimes, but no one's ever bullied her, because they're probably afraid of what would happen, I guess. But she was a bit more. I think she stood up to her mom a bit too, and which caused a lot of friction between two of them, I guess.
Right. And sometimes obviously that happens. Bud definitely can tell you a lot about the different parental alienation and stuff that he's been through. As far as parental alienation of what I've been through, I've seen more along the lines of dance card booking issues and those kind of things. So I've always had a somewhat term of some type of a visitation schedule necessarily, except for the fact of when I became homeless. And then I was given no visitation rights whatsoever. Didn't see my kid for 2 years. So I understand that reuniting process and how you have to phase in almost and get reunited almost and get to know your child, because now really they've become a different person from what they were when you once knew them. I mean, my daughter, when I had her, back then I was rocking her to sleep and almost giving her a bottle at that age. And then the next thing I know, the 2 years later, she's Miss Independent. So it's completely different when you have to reunite with your child like that.
Yeah, well, also, Jay, I want to touch on something real quick that you said in terms of my experiences. And if you just look at it psychologically, too, a lot of times children will do one of those two things. They'll either they'll be the bully type and insecure, or they'll be the ones that go the opposite. And parents that do this to their children and alienate purposely, there's emotional issues in that aspect with the parent that's doing that. And a lot of times you'll see it's pretty common for roles to almost reverse. I've had many conversations with attorneys. We've discussed it, I believe, with Melissa Isaac, Connie Wrigley, people like that, that you see sometimes the child-parent relationship kind of morph and flip-flop and as the child gets older. And that's not really uncommon and I'm not going to get into too much of that. People can probably, they can dig into that for themselves, the reason why. But a lot of times these people that are narcissists and the parent doing the alienating have far more issues than they're ever accusing the other parent of having. Again, Jay, happy people don't cut others down. They only attempt to build them up. And if someone is purposely keeping you from your child, Jay, then you know you're on the brink of breaking them, because no healthy person does that, and someone with a life doesn't cause that much trauma in their life. They have a life, and they don't purposely try to hurt their own child. So, no, they're on the brink of emotional collapse if they're doing that. And what you can't do is put your head down, as we said before. I won't repeat myself, as I always do. But you got to look at that as empowering. People do desperate things when they get desperate. Love yourself, and it makes, as I said on Ted's show the other day, Jay, in a society that profits from your insecurity and self-doubt, loving yourself is a rebellious act. Do that, and everything else will work well for you. Trust me.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And we've got Robert. I'm going to ask you this, because being that you're in Canada, it's obviously different for us in the United States. We have some rallies. We have hard times getting people to attend. Now, do you have those type of rallies up there, for parental rights or parental protections or parental alienation? And how does the government of Canada get behind parents, or do they even get behind parents who are going through these struggles?
Well, I believe they have some kind of movements like that up in Toronto, but I never really heard much about here, because we don't have a lot of population. But there is, for the amount of people, I mean, there are a lot of people going through parental alienation, like women and men, sometimes when some grandparents. But I mean, probably bigger saying where I think you're in Chicago. I'm not sure, or however you say it, but but it's
I'm
like
a little
more
bit south of Chicago, about an hour and a half to 2 hours away. But yeah, we do have some rallies. We do try and get some rallies, but obviously the numbers are so affected that I've seen in some of these rallies, and I'll tell you exactly why, because they bleed these parents dry of all of their income. And so they have a hard time making it as it is. And then they have to, obviously, if you've got to save up money for an entire year to get to a rally, a big rally anywhere in the United States, that's a hard pill to swallow, especially when you're paying, $200 or whatever for a hotel room or whatever, or, you're going across country and paying $300 or whatever it may be. So it's a lot to spend, number one. Number two, sometimes we have issues with the unity issue, and hopefully that's being resolved now, because we see it coming together much more. We're seeing this movement say, okay, we've had enough. No matter what my differences are with Joe Schmo, it's not going to make a difference, because in the end, we're both fighting for the same thing. And that's to bring these children home to good parents that, are just wanting their child in their life. That's it. That's all they want. And so, what I see happening, and I've seen it happen, I've paid attention to some of the rallies that have happened in the Toronto, even the Quebec area, and I see some of those, but I'm not seeing enough of those yet. Almost exactly the same as what we see in the United States. And I think it's going to take a unity issue to help that transpire. Is that what you think as well?
Yeah, I can't fly anywhere like Toronto, for instance, because where I live in Canada, where we're in Ireland, and it's a pretty bit away.
Right.
It's probably cheaper for me to fly to Ireland than it is, say, to Quebec.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it sounds like your accent actually is close to Ireland.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, well, my mother's from a fishing village about 50 kilometers away, and everyone sounds Irish up there, and I'm from the city, but I do know that sometimes, especially when it has a few drinks, the Irish comes out.
That seems to happen to all of us, even us Italians. The Irish comes out, we have a few drinks.
Yep, absolutely. And then you tell someone, here's what you do, Robert. You tell someone a big wives' tale, and you say, at the end of it, when you're about ready to leave, you say, aren't you a little too old to be living in leprechauns?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, you're a confusing one at a bar, though, because you do have that sort of Canadian accent, city accent mixed with, you don't know who, again, I always say to my wife, and I've said to Jay knows this too, you don't mess with people you don't know. And you're a real confusing one if you didn't know you. Like, you have no idea what to make. So we're going to be kind to you on the air, Mr. Glasgow, and make sure when we ever come up there to Newfoundland, we have a place to hang out and a person to have a beer with.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You're certainly welcome.
I say this because now where you're at, now is Canada completely in control of what happens within the family court system there, or is it just within Newfoundland that the government there is in control of everything?
It's the court that I went to now. There could be a bigger court, Supreme. I'm not 100% sure, but the one that I go to is called the Unified Family Court, and that's just for here in Newfoundland. It's not federal.
Okay.
It's just
so any federal type court would have to be of Canada, correct?
Yeah, like a federal court would be like all across Canada. I guess the Supreme Court for like, I guess it's for like criminals and things of that nature.
Right.
Now, my ex tried to make me into a criminal, but never happened. Yeah. Thank God.
Well, that ploy is tried with a lot of people, right? And try and turn them. And see, again, you don't want to play into the victimizer's hands, right? Definitely.
Exactly. Exactly. And, what are some of the things that you can tell some people out there as far as, kind of good advice on number one, how you can see that you're being alienated against from your child, and number two, how can you combat some of those things? How can you change the way that you do things, even to that person, or how you receive that information?
Well, I never heard about parental alienation now until the last couple of years before I got the children. And then I never heard about these groups until I actually had the children, so I got on and told my story a little bit. But I guess my daughter seemed to love me, my son seemed to love me, and then all of a sudden he seemed like he hated my guts. I don't think he ever did hate my guts, but I think he just tried to survive, maybe, because he did tell me, he did say, "Daddy, I'm so stupid. You're always kidding my hockey games," and I believed everything my mom said. And I said, "Well, you're only 2 years old when it started. Let's talk about it, but you shouldn't have to worry about that. You should have to worry about what you're gonna have when you do with your friends tomorrow." But I guess he used to always, when I called, he used to go, "Hello, goodbye, good night," and hang up. Which
let me that's heartbreaking. And I want to just say real quickly, and I've said this on the air, and I said it, Jay, on a television show I did. I know I've talked about this. Love is innate. Hate is taught. I don't care anyone out there, when a child says they hate you, they do not hate you. That is an abnormal thing that kids are doing that are put on them. So when your child says they hate you, don't feel bad for yourself even a little. Feel bad for that poor child, because what they're doing is screaming at you. Trust me, I've been that kid. I've told everybody in my life, mother, father, brother, everybody, I hate you. Die. Here's a gun. Go take your head off. And all the while saying, "Please, God, just hug me. Just hug me. Tell me this. I don't care what you say. I love you no matter what, and hug me." And that's what you need to do, is feel more sorry for that child. Your child, the people out there, does not hate you. I don't care if they send you emails every day. You keep loving. You keep loving. You keep loving. That child will come back in the end and be devastated. That's a heavy burden for children to put on, and shame on the parent that does that to that poor child.
Yes, I would absolutely agree, because what you're talking about is you're putting all of your guilt or all of your anguish that you may have felt from that divorce onto that child, and you're telling that child, "Oh, well, see, they don't love you. See, they don't do this, or see, they don't do that." And then it affects the child, and they come back up to that other parent. They say, "I hate you." And that's not really how they feel. They were induced to feel that way.
And Jay, how does it feel for that other child? These parents who aren't really thinking. They think, "Oh, yeah, they're making this child hate the other parent." And the whole time you're saying, "Son or daughter, you're not good enough." You're like Jay, I think he was alluding to. There's self-esteem. As I said before, I've said before too, if you're going to do that, you might as well start setting up a bank account for therapy for this child at the same time you're alienating. But don't wonder why, and don't point fingers. Look right in the mirror, because you're telling that child, when their parent is shit, that they are shit. So remember that, and that's putrid, deplorable, unacceptable, and the parent that's doing that needs to get more help. I should, again, set up another fund for their therapy and go parallel to that child. Stop it if you're doing it.
Exactly. And what are some of the things, Robert, you think that maybe we can change in how we react to some of this alienation that, is going on? Different techniques maybe that you've tried that have worked.
Well, truthfully, for the only reason I think I got the children was because my ex-wife had a meltdown, told her mother that she was going to jump in the ocean with the children. But before that, she ended up in a mental hospital, and I didn't know. And I was talking to Child Protection one day, and they said, well, in 2008, this was 2012, in 2008, she said she was going to kill herself, maybe the children, I'm not really 100% sure on that. But then I emailed the minister, like if you can email someone that's hard in Child Protection, I emailed the minister of the government of Newfoundland that was in charge of the department. and saying how I sent a nice email. I didn't like go crazy or nothing. I just sent a factual email asking why didn't they let me know about this if this happens. And in the end, they said I'll sue. And then they got 3 or 4 social workers to look into the fall, and they said things were going to change soon. And then about a month after that, that's when she said she was going to take the children and jump in the ocean. So I mean. Wow. I guess she did so many things over the years. I mean, she even ended up with a criminal record for uttering threats. She was, I guess she took all her medication or something, but there's not much medication for what she got. But I mean, I don't hate her or nothing like that. I'm just pity her, I guess. Because I mean, it's got to be strange. I mean, for her head.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that in terms of pity. And for the people out there, fortunes change in an instant. Things change in an instant. Life changes in a millisecond. And I'm glad he brought that up because you know what? I'll say to people out there, because there's going to be a time, too, where a lot of you out there get the upper hand and you have your foot proverbially on the other party's throat. And you know what makes you the sign of a good parent, a true parent, is when you let that foot off and you help the other parent up. And you show that child that everything you said was true. You are practicing what you preach. It doesn't mean being a doormat, but you know what you do? You be the better person.
Exactly.
You be the one who shows that you're the bigger man or bigger woman. And don't resort. That's the sign of a true champion, is when you knock someone on their ass and you pull a Mike Tyson after and you kiss him. Do you know what I mean?
In a way that is sportsmanship, so to speak.
Yeah, really. I mean, it's true, Jay. And I don't mean taking care of the. What I'm saying is show the compassion that they never showed you. You wish they knew. Teach them. Teach your children greatness by showing them.
That's exactly right. And I'll have to go back to a story that I had way back. My son was probably, I'll say he's probably 7 or 8 at the time. My son's always been into running, and that's been his thing. So he does cross country now and runs faster than the wind when it comes down to me. But I don't move too quickly. But anyway. So he's always been into these little runs, and so he did this all-city run, and he had a friend that was running with him, and I understood and I learned from my son what compassion really was all about. When this young man that he was running with, his friend, could not finish the race and needed help getting across the finish line, my son ran back and helped this young man all the way around the track and finished with him. And he stopped what he was doing when he realized his friend was behind him. And that's when I learned what compassion truly was from someone that was my son. And I had a 7-year-old teaching what at the time probably a 38-year-old, 39-year-old man what it meant to have compassion, what it meant to have a heart, what it meant to have love enough for your brother to stop what you're doing and help them back up. And I think that translates into this movement when we go through it, because obviously we've got people that are hurting. We don't know where they are in their battle. We don't know where they are in their fight. And we have to maybe stop what we're doing in our own race and help them up as well, because helping them helps us in the end. Because occasionally, and this is always the bridge that you have, the person that you help today may be helping you in the same position tomorrow.
Absolutely, Jay. Absolutely. I say all the time in a different angle is that be careful, because the feet you step on today could be attached to the ass you might have to kiss tomorrow. A little different angle on that. But Jay, thank you for that, because first of all, it doesn't surprise me with your child, the benevolence shown and the compassion shown. It doesn't surprise me at all. Good stock. But thank you, because children from birth, what are they, Jay? Nothing but pure, right? They're love. That's it, really. In terms of, they're all-encompassing love. In human form, they're pure, right? So when they're younger, you see them conduct the acts of kindness that are innate, that are, and you see that with children. You see the pure acts of kindness without all the peripheral bullshit yet, without all the tar and shit all over their souls, right? And that's how you can learn, because children are closest to God if you believe in the Lord. They are. And they're also, children a lot of times are much more heightened, and in terms of emotions and reading things, and they're susceptible to, because again, they're not clouded. If you watch and listen, and you can learn a lot, believe me.
Exactly. And I don't know if this approach also works. I mean, when we're talking about a lot of these things, because obviously we have a lot of people, and I've used this same approach. I've had to use the same approach that Bud talked to me about, is you don't give any attention to the narcissist. These narcissists, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to elicit a response out of you. And once they get the response, that's what they wanted to begin with. They're going to use that response back against you. So don't even buy into it. Just act like it never bothered you. And they're like, oh, crap, what happened here?
Well, it's amazing seeing I think everybody's progression, but I guess yours in particular, Jake, because we're so close. And it's amazing when you really see. Again, a lot of us, we don't really think long-term. We go, okay, this argument, like, what's the end goal? Like, what am I going to win? Like, be narcissistic about it. What am I going to win out of this? But really, and then the hardest thing to do is actually believe in it until you actually apply it and see it happen. What I mean is apply it by not applying anything. And it works. You don't put any energy. You put it all out there with love and benevolence and kindness and honesty. And again, I say all the time, you cannot even remotely control other people's actions. You can only control how you react to them. And you can't. It's completely useless and honestly dumb, to put it remedially, to get upset about what anyone else says or does to you, because you can't do anything about that. There's no need to worry, feel anything. You can control how you react, and what you do is you slow down, think of what is best for you and yours, and then breathe and go forward with that, irrespective of anything else people say or do. You stay focused, tunnel vision, and you'll get there. And that's what Jay's doing. Like I said to Jay last week on the air, it's how things look to you. And there's a wonderful video, and I shared it with a good friend of ours and a friend of the show, Diane Lyons, today. You know, and in this moment, honestly, a lot of us, why am I here? You know what? I take it the way I do and the way Jay does as an honor. This is called life. This is called, folks, you know what this is? This is called baptism under fire. And when you, and there's a good speech in Rocky Balboa in 2006, and I quote it a lot. But there's a trainer of the protagonist. I guess he's not really the protagonist because there is really none in that movie except oneself. His name is Mason Dixon, and he's a wonderful character in that movie too. He's not a Mr. T type in terms of characters. He's at a crossroads in life. He's a champion. He's got everything. He's got all the money. He's got the belt. He's got the everything in the world. But there's one thing he doesn't have, folks. It's called self-respect. And it's the only thing that matters in this world. That's it. Nothing else matters when you're taking your last breath. Because in the end, it's not checkbooks I give a shit about having in my hands when I go. It's my boys, my wife, and my family. And so that's what you have to do. Take this as an honor. This is baptism under fire, folks. Most people can't get through this and win. But you can. Baptism under fire. That's how you become a champion. Getting punched in the face and punched in the face and punched in the face. And then you win.
Absolutely. You know, we're talking about this, Robert, you know, how long did you go through the family court systems there? And what's the process there? Because, I mean, some of these cases here were lasting about, sometimes over a year that you have to deal with the family court system just to get through the initial divorce process. How is it out over there?
Yeah, it's about a year, I guess, around a year to get a divorce. And Now, I went to a lot of updates or status updates. I was getting sick of them, just trying to find out what was going on. And I guess maybe I did fight, but maybe I could have fought a bit harder in the beginning. But I guess she wore me down a lot too, I guess. And but in May 2015, I'm so glad I had legal aid, because we had 7 days straight of court to do with child custody, and there was extra witnesses. And I can just imagine how much that would cost, between $150 to $250 an hour. That would have been just astronomical.
Oh yeah. So your attorneys are about $150 to $200 an hour.
Yeah, I believe the most expensive I've ever dealt with was $250. Now I think there might be more expensive, like hotshot criminal defense lawyers, maybe, but I'm not really sure exactly. Right. It's probably like there you got cheap ones.
In the States, we spend probably, let's say on average for a good attorney, you're probably paying around $450 to $500 an hour. So it's astronomical, the amount of money that we spend. And then I don't know about your system there in Canada, but obviously what we see in the States is a lot of the same thing. The government is helping induce this whole process, because they're collecting funds, they're matching these funds that they collect from child support, and then they're paying those judges, or they're paying the welfare system for the people that don't even have jobs or don't even want to get jobs. So it ends up hurting the entire American people as a public, not just those people who are paying the child support themselves, but it's the entire economy. It puts a drain on society. So I'm not sure if you have that there in Canada or not. But yeah, it's crazy. But it seems like a lot of the same things that you have going on, even within your case, are the same exact things that are being experienced here in the United States. And it's something that we need to start saying, hey, this isn't just a United States issue. This is a worldwide issue that we've got going on. And we need to address it as a worldwide issue, especially with parental alienation. And I believe the United Nations has called parental alienation the same thing as genocide. So I think that this is genocide, especially mental genocide on the children of the world. I'm not sure what you think about that or not.
Yeah, I did read that somewhere about what you mentioned about the parental alienation being genocide. It might have been on Facebook. I read a lot of things on Facebook.
Yeah.
Can't remember everything, but I do remember reading something like that. But there is a lot of people in Canada that are spending lots of money on lawyers, on family court. I guess I spent a small amount on family court in the beginning, and then I lost a good-paying job, and then I probably purposely went just working lower-paying jobs where I could qualify for legal aid, and I got a really good lawyer, and she fought for me. But my ex was making up so much allegations. The police were always called. At one point, they went out to the local police station, and I think there was about 7 police officers out there, and I knew all of them. It was crazy.
So yeah, so you're really talking about the same thing. Your hearsay is being allowed in the administrative court process, and everybody says, "Oh, these are not administrative courts." And I just put this out there just not even too long ago, because we had someone who told me, who was even an attorney, who said these are not administrative courts. So I'm gonna read this real quick, because here it is. It says on Wikipedia, an administrative court, and then it lists right down underneath taxation, dispensation of monetary benefits, environmental licenses, building inspection. Oh, what's that? Child custody. Oh, that's under the what? The administrative courts. So unless Wikipedia is wrong, which I don't really see Wikipedia as being a wrong thing, these are administrative courts. and need to be treated as such. And what happens in these administrative courts is we look at Wikipedia and we say administrative law judges. And it says directly in there that they are courts of limited jurisdiction. They don't like you saying that they're a court of limited jurisdiction, but they are. And they need to kind of get in line with the fact that they are being overruled in a lot of these cases that are being taken to the federal courts because of the fact that they really don't have any precedents. These are make-believe situations. So we want to thank you so much for coming on and talking with us, Robert. I know that you've done a great deal out there. Can you tell us a little bit about Reunite Nation, Overcoming Parental Alienation, your group out there, and how people can reach you?
Yeah, they can follow me on my Facebook page. I'm planning to start my own podcast. I went on welfare for a while, and I feel stuck in a rut, so I'm just trying to get off that. But I'm trying to. I'd love to start some kind of a directory for low-income families all across the U.S. and Canada. I'm getting some funding through the government, hopefully, and I'll be able to hire maybe a few virtual assistants in the Philippines or something to help me out, because that's going to be way too big for one person going trying to find every single free bus, cheap bus passes, etc. But I was so stressed out with the kids, getting them and happy, but just so stressed out trying to deal with their issues. I mean, my little girl was like a caged animal when I got her. Like, she was 7 years old, and I thought she tried to throw me over my stairs and just totally. But now she's like a little angel. She was always an angel, I guess. But it's a bit strange me being afraid of a 7-year-old. But when you're walking down over the stairs, she's trying to shove me down over the stairs. Yeah, not the best. My son's going on 13 now, and he's pretty aggressive now.
Yeah, and I think that obviously there's going to be a lot of give and take there. And it's happened for a while because they're readjusting and relaying who you are as a person, because they've been told make-believe story that you're some awful person for so long that you now have to reintegrate with them, show them who you are. And when they start to learn and opening up, and they realize that you are a brutal man who's trying to do the best by them, now they really start opening up and they become who they are. It's just like anything else. I've heard of these unfortunate situations and I'll call it domestic abuse situations in the United States of America. What tends to happen a lot of the times is because we have men who are possessive. They feel like they got to hold on tightly to something, and I'm going to hold you down because I don't want you to run off to somebody else. That will hurt me, so I'm going to hold them tighter. All that does is it comes like sand in the hourglass, and it falls through your hands, no matter what you do. And so these children are almost the same way. The tighter you grip on them, the more they're going to become sands in hourglass. What you need to do is loosen up and let them blossom and become who they're going to be.
You're a little broken up there, Jay. I don't know if you can hear me.
I think you're doing my grand. I want to thank you.
Yeah, we're losing the Blog Talk feed a little bit.
Yeah, how about me, Ted? You still read me okay?
I've got you all right.
Yeah. Okay, well, Jay's pretty broken up on my end, too. I don't know if you can hear us, Jay. But he's silent. If you can still hear me, Ted, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
And if you can hear me, Mr. Glasgow.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, it's Jay's end, so.
Yeah, I can hear. I can't hear Jay very well.
Great. Well, good. You can still hear Jay too. I don't know if it's the Blog Talk feed, it might be, but thank you, Mr. Glasgow, for coming on. And I know we're gonna have you on again. Your service is very much appreciated here in the movement, and you're doing amazing things. I can't wait to see what else you do here. Looking forward to it, and thanks again for coming on and taking the time. I know it's late there or early, depending on how you're looking at it or where you exactly are. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, and we're going to have you on again.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me on. I just want to say one more thing.
Please do.
Everyone, parents, if they're all together or if, like us going through nasty times, should do some self-care. Whatever we enjoy doing. I love hiking. I'm in one of the best hiking places around, and I do that mostly. And sometimes I go out with my friends, obviously, but they all live in the city, and sometimes I don't head up there all the time. But self-care is key to. And also, even before I got my kids back, I forgave my ex-wife in my heart. I never forgave her personally because I knew it would have been a waste of my breath saying it directly to her. But I mean, I'm trying my best to keep the children in her life. She didn't see the children at one point for 2.5 years because she lost supervised access because the cops was called on a visit, and this was the fourth time she lost. And I had to cuddle my son to sleep every night, and he's as big as me. He wouldn't go to sleep without me. And then after 2.5 years, I gave it a try again, and then then things seemed like it was going normal. And then she called up Child Protection saying I was buying drugs on the street for my 10-year-old daughter. Then I was like, beep this, end of this. I'm not dealing with this anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know if I'm getting an echo on that side or not.
No, you sound good. You sound good, Jay. You sound good. Okay. You have a little bit of an echo.
Yeah. So I want to thank you definitely for coming on, though. We greatly appreciate you.
Yeah. I want to thank you for coming on, though. We appreciate you.
Yeah, Jay, it looks like you got a little bit of an echo. Mr. Glasgow, we appreciate it. While Jay works on his technical difficulties here, it's been an amazing show. Thanks for coming on. And we're definitely going to have you on again. Sorry for the confusion here at the end of the show, a little audio issue, but we're going to get that resolved. Again, thank you, sir.
Oh, no problem. I hope to make it to New Hampshire sometime. I got relatives down there, and
hey, I'm right on Lake Winnipesaukee. I'm right on Lake Winnipesaukee. You'll have to look me up.
I have no idea where they are. They're in somewhere in New Hampshire, but
well, if they're in New Hampshire, I'll find them. We'll find them for you. So you always have an open door here. It's awesome to have you on again, and thank you.
Okay, and keep fighting, everybody. Keep fighting for your children. You don't know what they're going through, and my children are doing better in school with me, and love it. Have a good night. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Looks like Jay is still silent.
All right.
Yeah, you might have to wrap up the show for him this time.
I'm gonna wrap it up because I'm sure it's getting a little confusing for people and arduous and tedious. So I'll say this because Jay's silent here, and that's okay. It's been an awesome show. It's around 9:55 almost. It's creeping up on that area. Jay's calling again, but I'll say this. I'll do some shout-outs first, and if Jay gets on, we'll do that. And if not, I'll send us out. First of all, again, I want to say a shout-out to my mentor, Mr. Charlie Stecker, who a lot of people don't know. Sometimes he messaged me throughout the show, and he did tonight, gave me some wonderful advice. Mr. Stecker, I did utilize that mute button more than once tonight, sir. Give a shout-out to Mr. Ronnie Cohen, who I said I would do. I'm going to do it again. Ronnie, brother, much love. Also, I want to give a shout-out to, I promised I would, there's a couple of employees of Hulu who were very helpful. William and Patrick, who were amazing. You guys are a benefit to your company. Hulu, as I said to the supervisor there, you guys are great. Thank you. Much love to you, and thanks for your service. And also, again, I said Amanda Heddels I would give a shout-out to. So, Amanda, keep your chin up. Everybody out there. And I always give a shout-out to my most beautiful best friend, my wife, Allison. I love you so much, baby. Thank you for all that you do. To my littlest, bestest buddy, Mason. I love you, bestest. And to my biggest, bestest buddy, Carter. I love you, big man. Wonderful things on the horizon. We have a nice visit here coming this Monday and I couldn't be more excited about what's going on here, folks. I'm going to keep it silent with that on that. And for now, love you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Jay is. Wait a minute, was that Jay?
Hey! I think I'm back here, so let's go for this. We got we got a few minutes here, so I'm going to go ahead and give my shout-outs as well.
Well, let me finish real quick, Jay. I just have a couple more things to say, and I apologize if we have a second or two. To the people out there, it's been an amazing week, and I know we have a friend out there, Jim Cropper, the Bomb Dropper, who's starting a show on his own tomorrow night.
Yeah, I will be on there.
Yes, Jay Moss will be on there tomorrow night, and Jay can talk about that in the exit. But I think it's a very empowering, therapeutic, and wonderful thing for Mr. Cropper. I implore everybody to go and listen to our boy Jim Cropper, Veterans Show tomorrow night. Much love to everybody out there. Chins up, everybody. It ain't over till you say it's over, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely want to thank Ed Opperman for coming on, Robert Glasgow, and definitely want to thank our staff. We have a new member of our staff, actually, Julianne McCory, and we'd like to welcome her to the team. And looks like something dropped off the network here, and I'm not sure why, but hopefully
I can still hear you. Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, good. And so definitely want to thank a lot of people out there, great people who are in this fight and need the inspiration. One in particular, a young lady who had a car accident by the name of Stephanie Tilley, who, in fact, even we're going to have her on at some point in time because her story is just amazing. Young lady, unfortunately, she was paying attention to her cell phone, got in an accident, and went through the windshield. And unfortunately, because of this entire process and had some brain damage because of this, unfortunately, the family court system decided to turn over the custody of the children to the two fathers instead of allowing her to keep custody, just because of this car accident, and because of the fact that she has some brain damage because of these issues. It's unfortunate and what we have in this society, but we want you to keep your heads up because obviously in this movement you are important, you are loved, and you are cared about. And this is our song taking us out for tonight, Thumbs by Sabrina Carpenter.
Obviously, again, for copyright reasons, I tone that out, but we have a special ending for you right here. Please join me tomorrow on the Marches Live. Hope you guys enjoyed Far From Normal Live. Thank you for watching. Good night.